What's up, everyone? Pittsburgh White Schwartz back with more deck techs. Today we're covering Hololive Volume 2. I am joined today by Andy and Tanner.
Hola.
What's up, lit fam?
And we are going to be going over some popular decks and maybe some unpopular decks from Hololive Volume 2. There's been a lot of coverage on the set by all the good White Schwartz content creators out there. So we are going to try to cover, probably something you've definitely seen. And then a couple things maybe you haven't seen, stuff we talked about in the set review. So let's jump right into it. I think we can start with the one you probably expected. Andy, you want to take this one?
Yeah, figured I should be the one to present this after I complained so much about it during the set review. the bougie man, as they say. This is definitely like the big Hololive deck you're gonna want to watch out for. Definitely like the tournament winner right here. But yeah, let's just look at what makes this deck so darn good. 18 level zeros. Starting off, we have some good plussing ones. We got 4 copies of this Lammy, which is a Ricky. So when it gets reversed in battle, it's like one of the good Hololive ones. When it gets reversed, you can pay 1, send it to your memory. So some nice free compression to look at the top 4 of your deck for a character. And then also 4 copies of this level 0 Iroha, which is some nice yellow fix for us. And also has a chance to mill to pop back to your hand to be a plus for you and open up a spot for standby. Super nice. Then we're moving into what I think is the most egregious card I've ever seen printed. Definitely one of my favorites for sure. The level 0 Ina and Taco Gram. It's basically just the Chizuru effect. So on play, look up top 2 rearrange and then a climax salvage. But it has a soul on it, meaning you can pick it up with choice trigger, which we don't run. But notably, we need a lot of soul triggers in our deck for the finisher, the Gura, but we don't have to pick and choose between running higher level cards and having enough level 0s to function, because this card is a level 0 and it's an absolute banger all around. Then we got 3 copies of this Reine, which is a Rico effect, so you can discard on play to reveal the top card of your deck, and then salvage a character in your waiting room of that level or lower of your revealed card. Probably one of the best hand fixing effects you could want to see on a card, letting you drop anything, even an extra climax in your hand, to get knowledge of the top card of your deck and to pretty much grab whatever you want out of your waiting room. And this card has a chance to pop back to your hand as well, just like the Iroha. The Reine is just a nuts card. Super good plussing card. 2 copies of this level 0 Ozki, which actually has a climax combo on it. We don't run the standbys empty in this deck. This card is a typical card you see in a lot of standby decks where on play it'll give some power to a character, and then when you play the climax, this pops back to your hand, but it also climaxes with that standby. So when it pops back to your hand with that effect, you can sacrifice the climax from your climax zone to search your deck for any character. I don't think any other set that has this sort of standby pop back effect has one that's like actually on a combo that's plussing you. You pretty much would play this in any other standby deck just for the fact that it gives power and then pops back to open up the slot, but it's just gravy that it combos with climax as well. And then just one more card as a toolboxy card at level 0, the Aquarium Date Amane Kanata, which gets a level and 1500 power if you have 5 in hand, and is a drop search. Or I'm sorry, is just a normal Ricky on play. Pay 1, block yourself, search your deck. Just in case you needed a more selective, like, plussing Ricky effect at level 0. Any comments from you guys on that level 0 game? It seems pretty loaded.
I think the Iroha has something like a 70% chance to hit on the Hyper Geo. You have to hit like a 2 or higher, like on the mill, which you're running so many higher level cards. I think there's a like ridiculous chance for that to hit. Or like it's a very slanted coin flip effect. It also reveals your top card and pumps power, which is nice when you're playing a standby deck. Helps you not only wins at level 0, but throughout the game. Gives you pluses when you get like opportunities to side or just get a free lane at any point. This card is usually going to pop back to your hand, just give you a free card as well as give you top info and power. Pretty sneaky combination of effects. Reuse it all the time. The Kanata is like you said, it's just like an extra copy of whatever 0 you need if you're still at 0. So that's why we have it. It's like the 3rd Ozki, the 5th Iroha, stuff like that.
Yeah, I like it as just a way to be a little bit more selective, because the Lammy Ricky's super good going to memory, but it's a top check for if you want something, if you wanted to specifically grab a particular card, the Kanata is kind of nice to have as an option.
Yeah, because you only need to see the first Oz key. After you get the first one, you never need the second one. Because you can only ever resolve the climax once. You can't do a multiple climax combo because it sacks the climax. Which is also super nice, just that it gets the climax off the board. You can sequence that however you want because the standby effect goes off like when you play the climax. But you can sequence all that stuff however you want.
Yeah, great at the end of the deck when you want to grab a card out of your waiting room to put on your field as a big body and then have the climax go back to trigger. Super great. But yeah, moving into the level 1s here, it looks pretty clean, but I think it's a very interesting level 1 to me. In the sense that we have this level 1 Mori combo in the deck, right? We don't even use the climax combo with her. She's just there as a big body to swing with on turn. And she has a soul icon, which is important for Gura later. And then we have the 4 copies of this level 1 Brainstorm, this Iroha. At first glance, a pretty underwhelming card, being in level 1 Brainstorm. Usually you see those at level 0. And the secondary effect's nice, but you know, it's whatever. But again, it has a soul on it, which is important for later in the game. So the fact that we have some of these staple cards we'd want to be running, like these Brainstorms that can have a soul trigger on them, is super handy. And really, the fact that we build the deck this way, to just cram as many soul triggers in as possible, makes the Gura that much more explosive at the top end. So at first glance, it might not make a lot of sense for level 1. Again, just running like an empty climax combo and just like not really doing a whole lot at level 1. But again, we have the standbys in there as well, and we're really with this deck playing all in on our end game. It's all about Gura, and everything else is helping you set up for that and getting there. A very important card for setting up for Gura is her best friend from the anime, Ame. I'm still an Ame Same shill from day one, brother. Still holding out.
It's true. He's been there since the very first.
Yep, 2 buddies. They work well together. The Ame sets up very nicely for Gura. It's a level 2. Usually you don't see a whole lot of just level 2s, like 2-1s specifically. Especially in standby, you'd think you'd see a lot more 2-2 standby targets. But again, we're building up. Everything is all about building up for Gura. So there's level 2 Ame. When it attacks, it gets power. It's nice that that effect is on attack and not play, which makes it useful when you standby out and swing with it next turn. As well as the accelerate effect. So the beginning of your climax step, with this Ame on your field, you can take a Hololive character from your waiting room, put it on the bottom of your clock. If you do, it gets an extra 1,000 power, and when you reverse your opponent, you get 2 cards from this top of your deck into your stock. So that is a tremendous amount of stock charge. Not to mention, if you have 2 of these Ames on the field, you can do that twice and get 6 stock with 2 attacks. It's incredible. Very, very good way to build stock, and you really only need 1 turn or so with an Ame or 2 to get enough stock for your end game, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, so the idea is like at level 1, you standby out this Ame. A single Ame resolution is a Gura, because Guras pay 2 on attack. So if you resolve an Ame, you just got an extra Gura combo that pays for itself. So like if you resolve 2 standbys throughout the game, 1 for Ame, 1 for Gura, it's a free Gura is like the idea, because the Gura's on the field and then Ame pays for itself. So that takes triple down from 10 stock out of hand to down to 8. You only have to play down 2 Guras, and then you go off from hand. Further, like the Mori is literally just a vanilla with a soul trigger. The Iroha extra power is actually really relevant for Ame, because it means you can like wing over stuff like Alice, because Ame will be 11, right? Because she gains 1,000 per other, 12. Then Iroha makes you like 13.5. You like tie the memory back up, but like if you're over 2 lanes, you can like try to fish out the 3k, or like pump with Lammy in another lane to just make sure Ame is 14.5. She's like over any amount of Alice backup power, provided they don't have that like Leafa people have been teching to throw down in the back row. Just make sure that your Ame can get that revert, because 1 Ame resolution is literally all you ever need to triple.
Yeah, I remember the first time you guys showed me this deck list, like the big meta list. That was like one of the cards I had the most questions on, was the Ame. Like
it's weird when you haven't played
in practice
with
it plays stronger than it reads, I think. It was just weird to see it with standby. I think that was the thing that was like most interesting to me at first glance. But again, it's not a typical standby deck. And we got 3 copies of the Miko. You guys want to talk about a little bit about this one, why it's a good fit for the deck, other than the salvage effect, of course?
It's the salvage effect. It's like literally this card is a card with a soul trigger where you can pay a stock to turn a card in your hand into a card that you need. So it's just 3 copies of selection with a soul trigger, that if you like are hitting a ludicrous amount of standbys and things are like going terrible, it does like make your cards bigger if you have to like put it out onto the board.
Helps give you a little pump to your Ame.
Also extra red red. If you notice, our red count is like extremely anemic for a deck that wants to play standby, because the Oz key is like only one card. That's only like one count, because one is always in your hand. The standbys don't count. So that's like 4, 7, 8, 10 red, like minus the climax, minus an Oz key gonna be in your hand. That's like it's extremely anemic on the red side, so it's just an extra red card with a soldier.
Yep, pretty much. And then of course the one copy of the Hachama counter. This could probably be any counter. I mean, you're
it's for the implication.
No shortage of good counters in
because of the
Hololive.
implication.
The implication.
You keep this card in your deck. It's like I could resolve this card and still Gura you, because it's possible, and the possibility of it means that the implication that you could do such a thing means your opponent must also play around said thing, provided that it's in your deck in the first place.
It's definitely format dependent too. Like in formats where memory kick's stronger, you know, if you wanted to go for that option instead, you could, or anti-change.
The big thing is your board's not super huge on defense typically, so that's the main thing too. It's like at the memory kick like puts your Ame to
only be like 95.
Yeah, I mean it'll be
10k or whatever.
3k memory kicks, it'll be 10k. So it's like Alice still swings over it without any help. So that's the other thing. It's like the counter does something else. No.
Yeah, Hachama's also red.
Doesn't really matter. It's also extra red. I think it's like a card you're not gonna play. Tap is probably one of the strongest. Like anti-change can still be strong when it's a card you never intend to resolve. But these days I feel like you play anti-change with the intent to resolve it, not as a threat anymore. But tap you can definitely hold up as a threat, especially Hololives, because it's like hand based, which is still like the dumbest thing ever. I hope they never print a hand based tap counter ever again like this, like a purely ditch from hand tap counter, because hand's the easiest resource in the game to randomly fund. All right,
but yeah, getting into the level 3s here, let's talk about like the auxiliary ones first. Got 2 copies of the Demon Pop Ayame. This is an early play with a lot of utility on it. I like it a lot. Can early play with 2 or less climax and waiting room. On play from hand, it gets an extra 2000 power cross turn, and then you can either heal or look at the top 3 cards of your deck, take one when you play it. So if you're at level 2 and want to extend the level 2 game, you know, you can heal with it. Or if you're just trying to dig for combo pieces on your kill turn, the top check 3 is really nice to have the option to pick or choose there. 1 copy of the Matsuri, I can never say her name, Natsuhiro Matsuri, which is the stock swap. Always a good thing to have, always good to threaten, just like the Hato counter. And then 1 copy of the Watame, kind of a jack of all trades card. Can pay 1 and salvage a climax when you play it, and can also discard a climax to salvage a character when you play it. So again, kind of like the level 2 Miko, and just yet another way to drop a card down and filter something into a Gura. And then let's talk about the Queen of Hololive herself, Gura. Definitely one of the most destructive finishers in the game at the moment, I would say. On play heals and gets extra power on your field, so it sits at 11k. But it's really the stopping power of the finisher combo. So on attack, if you have the pants in your climax area and you have 6 or less cards in hand, which you will, you can pay 2 and discard a card to deal 2 damage to your opponent, and mill the top card of your deck twice, and if it has a trigger icon on it, burn them for 1. So assuming, because our deck's going to have a lot of soul triggers in it at this point, on attack you're paying 2, discarding 1 to burn them 2, mill to burn 1, mill to burn 1. So talk about the numbers, Carmen. Hyper Geo, hit me with it.
It's better, it's equivalent or better to Full Kids Meal Combo from Tokyo Revengers, if you're familiar with that. So ideally, like triple Gura, 2-1-1-4, 2-1-1-4, 2-1-1-4. It's all on attack. The fact that your deck is all soul triggers means you can even like side for 2-1-1-1. The numbers are completely disgusting. Double Gura is still gross, but like livable. But triple Gura is like completely insane, like unbelievably unlivable. From 2-5 or higher, you are like dead 70% of the time. Even lower, you like most certainly can die. I think from as low as like 2-2, for everything under 6 and 30, it's like 6 and 30 at 2-2, you have something like a 25.8% chance to die, I think, if I remember the chart, to triple Gura, which is like already completely insane that you could die from 2-2 to triple of a card. And then and for everything worse that happens, so like say you like cancel a 4-on-1 and like your deck state becomes like randomly like slanted in a poor way, that 25.8% chance to die exponentially rises based on like unfortunate deck ordering. I think people have been complaining a lot, and myself included, and other people, about how deck order, which is something you can never truly control, has started to matter more and more about randomly dying to these kinds of finishers. And because they're so explosive like this, that's why, like, if you swing in on the first Gura for 4 and it cancels on 1, and now your deck that was like, say, after canceling the burn 2 from down in 6 and 30 and eating the 1/1, so like you cancel the 2 on 2, go to 5 and 28, eat the 1, 5 and 26, you eat the 1, and okay, now you're 4 and 24 as opposed to being 4 and 20, and now you have like a 45% chance to die from 2/2 as opposed to a 25% chance. And every time you like cancel too high in these explosive finishers on the big swing, your chance to die like exponentially rises because of there's too many small packets in the center, which make it almost impossible to live. So yeah, triple Gura is fucking insane. It can and will kill you. The only thing you got to do playing this deck is when you have the opportunity to bin a non-soul trigger out of your next deck, you should consider it. So something like resolving a Lammy, you have to hit 3 first anyway. You might as well punch yourself. You want to hit 3 first. Who cares about managing your deck state? Just roll your face on your mat, attack 3 times. Just make sure your Ame resolves, and you'll triple Gura pretty much every game. From literally at level 0 with this deck, your Ozki searches a Gura. Every Ozki you resolve at level 0, I search a finisher Gura. I do not search another card. I do not do anything to sculpt my upcoming play. I search a Gura because it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna roll my face on my mat until it's time to coin flip the game with Gura, and I see if I win. If you like playing Yahtzee, you'll love playing Ozki Gura because that's about what it's like. You're not really playing White Shorts. You're not really playing much of anything at all. You're actually just waiting to see if you're going to, hit Yahtzee and win. But you're like playing Yahtzee with loaded dice. But whatever. I mean, people love the super finishers. Just not my way I like to play the game. But it's not my choice. I'm gonna have to play into it. So it's up for the rest of us to find answers until it goes away.
Yeah, as somebody that played Doggerella, which is Disney 100 Cinderella with the dogs package, which puts out 33 or so soul triggers, and the entire purpose of the deck.
Gimp your deck to do that. You have to play army
my
cards.
deck and play worse cards to make that work, and it still is like so gross that you can just, if your opponent has a bad deck state or a random ordering like we mentioned, you can just eat huge chunks of damage from the start of the game. And that's the thing with this many soul triggers, you're pushing substantially more damage than you should be while playing a standby. Like, not having a 1k1 doesn't matter when every swing's still going to be for 2. It's really, really gross. And then having functional cards on top of that, and then even adding it better by having one of the grossest finishers ever printed on top of that. I mean, this deck is just absolutely disgusting.
Do not have fun. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200, but you'll probably win the game anyway. That's how this deck goes. But I think this deck's been like talked to death too. So we can move on to something more interesting, unless anybody got anything else to say on Ozki Gura.
Nope.
I don't think so. Yeah, tell us about Hololux.
Yeah, so we talked about this one a lot in the set review. Hololux with the Coronet early play. Jason, Strictly Broken Jason, was definitely gushing over this one. And I think it's really cool, and it plays a lot of cards that the other decks in Hololive probably aren't playing, especially like, some of the more popular list Ozki Gura that we looked at. So let's just start out here, run through quick. This Anya is a level 0 bomb, and then when she hits the waiting room, you can pay 1, clock yourself from top to look at top 4, add a level 1 or higher card. We're on 7 events, so it's nice that we can add level 1 higher. The Matsuri Brainstorm, which you remember from Hololive 1, is just self-tap salvage Brainstorm. You can tap it to give one of your level 1 or higher cards 1500 power. Pretty nice considering we're going to loop our level 1 for pretty much the entire game after we throw it down because of how the Chloe works. We are playing the Louis Resonator. So here you can resonate the La Plus finisher, which is this yellow card down here, this yellow level 3, and then you can check top 3 and add any Hol character or the 1/1 Hololux event. And then she also has, whenever you trigger a climax, you can choose a card in your waiting room and marker it under this. What we have some pretty cool plays with that, where you can marker like the 1-0 Gamers event, which will then turn on your Coronate early play. Plays like that, which are pretty cool, which are unintended, but definitely work out very well. Unintended for the Hololux package, but let you pull off some stuff. Raine, we already talked about it. Absolutely busted filter card. Unique to Hololux, the fried chicken Laplace, which is on play. You can discard a character to search for the 1-1 glow sticks event, which searches a climax from your deck. So basically this card turns a character in your hand into the climax if you don't have it, which then lets you combo again. It's like becomes an infinite loop because the Chloe can pick up the Laplace, which can then pick up the event, and you just go in a loop like that where Chloe picks up Laplace grabs event grabs climax, and then you go off. You can loop that forever. Mio, one of the most disgusting cards. If you've been seeing the recent like surge of 8 standby Hololive, this card's like super disgusting in that deck, but here it's, you know, just okay. I think it really shines in that deck, but here it's just a really good card. You can Mocha yourself on play, and then on play and on death drop search, so you can get as tricky with that as you'd like. Resolve the drop search, then Mocha yourself going into your attacks, or Mocha yourself first, see 2 climaxes and be like, ooh, and then drop search and shuffle them away. So you can get as tricky with that as you'd like. And then because we need to see our Laplace early for our resonate effects, we're going to play this Chloe. This Chloe is on death, ditch a character. You can search for the Laplace from deck, or the Louis. So whichever one you don't have, you can either grab the Resonator or the Laplace into your level 1 or on your next level 0 turn. So this card basically turns into a card that can give you a stock out and hopefully a plus. You can resonate at 0 to pay out a triggered climax or something like that. So a nice card to just make sure that we can get into our Resonator engine. And then the Laplace filter is also a stock. I forgot to mention that, the fried chicken. So moving into level 1, the Hololux package, you're gonna loop this for like the entirety of the game. So the Chloe is on attack as long as you have another character. She gets 3k. She's 7, 8k with climax. That's already really big. And then you on attack resonate the Laplace, and then you can salvage a character, reveal top if that card's a level 1 or higher card, which we run a lot of. We're in level 0s here. Our deck is 1 and higher heavy compared to most other decks, modern decks that you say. You will put that card into stock. So it's salvage and then coin flip to your top of deck, level 1 or higher, go to stock. Because this card is naturally big and we have these other pumps, stuff like the Matsuri, and can loop it so well with like the 1-1 event, and then it also hits on our events because it hits on 1s and higher to give us stock. We're just going to loop this the rest of the game, and we're going to use the Rene to do that. The Rene is a on play, discard any card, salvage a cost 0, and just play it to field. Usually these only spawn level 0s, but this can spawn cost 0s, so you just spawn Chloe. So it's like running 6 copies of your level 1 combo, and then on attack gives another character get 1,000 power, so it can make your Chloe even bigger, carry you into level 2. 4 of the camera, it's just on play, check top 4. The Gamers event, check up to 4. Good deck control, helps you manage deck states throughout the game, as well as let you early play the Coronate later. Then the 1-1 Secret Society Hololux event, which don't have 2 or less Hololux characters, which is why, you know, have to have those on field to make sure that you can resolve this. And the reason it has a cost to it, unlike a normal glow sticks, because this is 1-1 event, search your deck for a climax. Doesn't go to memory or anything, so you can reuse it, which is really nice. Search your deck for a climax, reveal to your opponent, add it to your hand, and then choose one of your characters and give it 2k. So while we're looping with the Chloe, because this card's naturally big, we're also giving it 2k. Again, we have that infinite loop where Chloe picks up Laplace searches event gets climax, go off again, go in a loop. The fact that this card gives power is super nice. So there's a lot of Hololux characters in the deck. Shouldn't have trouble meeting that condition, but that is something you have to keep in mind. Any questions on the deck up to this point, like that level 0 into 1 here, sort of setting up?
No, not really. I think you hit the proverbial nail on the head there.
All right, moving into a level 2, we got the 2 of the Anya. This card searches a door on play, pay 1, discard a card, search for a card with a door trigger icon during your deck. So you're running 5 ways to rip your level 1 climax out of deck. And then on attack, as long as you have a full board, this card gets 5k and your opponent can't play events or backups. So it's a way to play around tap counter as well as continue looping our event. One of this Koyori, this is another like Hololux Resonator card. It's a level assist, and then you can resonate the plus and tap it to choose a character on your opponent's stage, give it -1,000, and then your opponent can't play backups in that lane. So it's just another way to play around tap. Have one on play this as long as your opponent's character isn't hexproof. you can tap down the Koyori, resonate, and then make another lane where they can't play backup. And then one of the Louis anti-change counter, it's pay to sack a character. Because our cards that we're looping at level 2 are costless, they're big on turn, but small off turn. The Louis is pretty nice because then we can sack a card that we're just gonna loop back with like the Raine just summoning out the Chloe again or something like that. We're gonna win on offense and then use anti-change counter on defense. And then the level 3, outside of the Coronet, it's pretty standard. We already talked about the IMA, modular early play, the Matsuri that shows up in every deck. LaPlus is a pretty muted finisher. It's an on-play healer, and then on attack, if you have 2 or more LaPluses, it's like a cancel burn 2, and if you only have 1 LaPlus, it's a cancel burn 1. So it's kind of like assuring damage. It's not like pushing for game, but the idea is you generate so much value with the rest of your deck that you can kind of like play this down, heal, take a slower game moving that way from level 3 onwards, which is always a risk in the modern meta, but this deck does it really well. You generate a ton of value off the level 1 package. Then the Coronet, Jason and the rest of us kind of gushed about this. It's a really unique card. It early plays with 2 or more of the Gamers events in Grave. Level 2, on attack, it gets 1,000 power times the number of your other characters, so it's 12/5 base before anything else. And then whenever this card becomes reversed, you pay 1, ditch a character to rest this and bomb your opponent's card. So this card over time clears your opponent's entire board for the longer your level 2 goes. So if you're generating extra stock and compressing by paying out stock with the Resonator and plussing all game with the Chloe, hopefully you're very compressed going into level 2. This Coronet overturns, not only like filters to put itself back on board, but then slowly blows up your opponent's board over turns. And it's really awkward for your opponent to like deal with this Coronet if they can't like just eat it off the board with some kind of like hard removal effect. The card will slowly just chip away at the rest of their board and whatever they try to put out. Only last note on it is because this tech is door choice, you don't have a very high saturation of soul triggers, which is something that matters a lot. So slamming is really, really important. So it's very nice that this package has this glow sticks event where it can continue to slam climax and throw out damage, because I think otherwise it would probably fall behind just based on not having enough triggers based on its climax lineup. But because it can slam a lot, it doesn't have that issue. And this one's really fun to play. I've played this one quite a bit in the sim, and it is very, very interesting because I only got my Hololive cards in very recently. Haven't had a chance to mess with a lot of things. I waited for English, but I have played this quite a bit in the simulator, and it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of moving parts, and you get to play a bunch of the new Hololive cards that don't make their way into a lot of other lists. And
yeah, it looks super interesting. I guess one comment, or I guess question I have is, so you've done a lot of testing with it. Why is the Coronet early play at 2? I guess that seems like the sweet spot.
It's just easy to pick up. Like
you don't think you'd want
salvages.
More to be able to like get them in multiple lanes, or is the goal just to get 1 down and start?
You just have to throw down 1, because the threat is like over time if your opponent doesn't hard play the card, because the card doesn't heal and stuff like that. You really don't want to blow all your resources to throw it down. It's like, okay, you got to deal with this the same way you would deal with any other early play, because if you don't, it's just gonna kill everything on your board. Because it swings big, right? It creates open lanes on your turn because they have to swing into it, and then it bombs your opponent's lane and stands back up. So it's like big on turn, and then your opponent like creates an open lane by dealing with it, whether they hard remove it with an Adachi, or it just like they swing over it with power, you kill their card, this card lives, you get an open lane to swing a shitter into, which lets you like have a lane where like the LaPlus Blonder at 2 can attack profitably because it's a level 0 where it rips the glow sticks out of your deck. You have the Coronet, and then your other lane is a Chloe, and you go off with combo again. So you have lines like that you can take with it that are really nice. So you only ever really want 1 on board.
Yeah, okay. It's more of like a standard attrition tool rather than like you're going all in on it.
Yeah.
And it reminds me a lot of like good old fashioned Rem from ReZero, something that like snowballs like every turn. It just gets more and more annoying to deal with.
Yep, very similar, just in a more disruptive way, not as threatening at first glance. All right, we can move into Tanner's. Tanner's is definitely the most interesting.
All right, here we go. Dark Hole Turbo, my child. I was talking about wanting to make Dark Hole a thing for a long time, and then once I saw this Ollie, who is one of my favorite members, get a card that perfectly resolves with it, I've never been happier. So, going into the level 0s, you have 4 of the LaPlus, standard plussing card. However, there's a sick tech that this thing can utilize where when when you resolve your Hachimas, it lets you plus and keep hand up with your combo, which we'll kind of get into a little later. But it gives you some really sick lines there. You have 2 of the Miko drop search. You don't have a lot of searching in this deck. If you play the other combo that we talked about, it gives you a little more deck speed, but not as much selectivity. So this is just a better way to get some in-depth or searching selectivity. The 2 of the Fubuki, you need to mill a lot. So this 4-card mill gives you a little power pump, helps you get over other Laplaces in mid lane, or just helps power up over random cards played at any time. Again, the mill is the biggest thing here, because you need to get your 2 of your ollies in your grave as fast as you can and ensure that you can resolve the main mechanic of the deck. 2 Chocos, again, on play mill 3 and drop salvage. This is, again, free mill is always good, and then a little bit of selectivity if you milled out your combo with one of your mill cards. As I talked about already, the Reine, you get 2 of it, helps select any specific card you're looking for, as well as giving you some extra cards in hand occasionally if you on your coin flip. Then 2 of the Subaru, this is a climax swap. This card is the MVP of the deck for me. On play mill 3 option, or mill up to 3, and then it's also your climax swap. So if you don't have your climax engraved and you have a random one, while you're milling for your ollie, you might hit your Fubuki bar and just go, well, I guess I can swap into this now. Or if you're just doing it to mill, it's again free mill, so can't complain there. It's also one of your few yellow cards. If your game's going really bad and you don't get a Laplace to resolve and send itself, it helps give you a little bit extra to hard play your Watame at level 3. And the last card here, we have 3 of the TD Fubuki Brainstorms. This is how you early play your Hachima, as well as giving power to it, your level 1 combo. For the level 1, we have the Fubuki TD combo. On turn, it gets 2k if all of your characters are Hololive, so it's 65, 75 with climax. And on reverse, it is discard a card, salvage 2 characters. So it helps you filter out your extra bars if you have them in your hand, or it's just basically a discard a card, salvage the same card, and salvage something else. So it lets you filter your hand around to make sure that you have the ollies in grave if you have them in your hand early as well. The other option for this, which I think while Alice is still running around, is probably the better option at this point, just because it kind of ignores your opponent's board at level 1, is the Okayu. So this is the on attack, look at 3, take anything. I would say this also helps fill your grave a little faster to try to help resolve those ollies. Either way, I think they're both fine. I think once Alice is gone, Fubuki's a little better, just because you're a little bigger, as well as you're getting a little bit more selectivity, which is the main thing you're searching for, trying to get your dinosaur pose and your brainstorm in a single Hachima, and then every other card doesn't really matter. Then your utility level 1 is the brand new Sora. This card is 45 plus 1k for each other character in your back row on turn, and then when your opponent slams a climax, you can send it to stock. So again, for the Alice matchup, this is a good way to get free stock. You put this in the back if you already have your full board in your hands and you are overhand. Lets you just kind of convert your resources in decks and matchups where you know that they're going to slam pretty heavily. Notably, you do need a lot of stock going into your first level 2 turn, because when you do your combo, you need to pay 1 for the dinosaur pose, 2 for the Hachima, and then 1 more in hand for each ollie. So ideally, you want at least 5 stock to resolve your full combo. So the 2-1 is your level assist, or the 2-1 dinosaur pose is your level assist, as well as the way to early play your dark hole Hachima. So we're on 3 of that. 2 of the Anya. This lets you grab either your Marine Door or your ollie, whichever you need at that point in the game. Also, again, if you just want to, it helps you swing in with it. Anti-backup, plays around, tap, big swing, always good there. 1 of the anti-change. You don't normally have a ton of extra hand to play around with this deck, so it's mostly there as a threat that you can sometimes resolve. I've been able to resolve it before. I just know that I would never be able to resolve tap in this deck. You're way too constrained on your hand for having your big turn be losing your entire board, committing a bunch of cards. You normally only have like 3 to 5 cards in your hand if you're lucky, post resolving combo. so that's why we were on this instead of the tap. One of the Watame, as mentioned before, gives you a little bit of flexibility. Discard climax, salvage character, or pay 1 salvage climax. Grab whatever you need for the turn. And 4 of the Marine, this is it, just your finisher. Marine's a good card. You don't need a lot of resources, so if you do your turn and you do your big combo turn and decide, and your deck decides to punish you and send you straight to 3, this is how you close out those games and really put on some pressure to your opponent. And the main part of this deck is 3 of the 3/2 Hachimas. This card is from the TD. It's got a lot of text, but basically the turn it's played, which you EP it similar to Rushia by resting the Brainstorm and the 2/1. The turn that it's played, you get at the beginning of your attack phase, you can put all characters except for this card into their waiting room. If you do, it gains the following ability: cancel burn 3. So this is a full field board wipe that plays around hexproof. That way it defeats Ainz, it gets around Alice big boards, and then it also has the effect pay 2, ditch 2, burn 2. Typically don't resolve this. However, I normally swing with Hachima as my 3rd attack this turn because of the Ollie combo, which I'll get into here in a second. And sometimes you can look at the damage and just say, I guess I can kill here. And the pay 2, ditch 2, burn 2, though being expensive, it helps proc that cancel burn 3 or just sticks the 2. So a good way to push out some damage at the end. And the main thing of why this is now a playable card is the 3/2 Ollie combo. When this is played from hand or by effect of her combo, you can heal top of clock to waiting room, and you pay 1, discard a character from your hand. At the beginning of your attack phase, if you have the climax down and you are level 2 or higher, and all of your characters are Hololive, you can spawn this in any position. So your main turn is you play your 2/1, you rest your 2/1 in your Brainstorm, you play your Hachima, you blow up the field, then you spawn 2 Ollies, and you have 3 attacks, and your opponent just lost their entire board. Cool line you can do is you can have a LaPlus on board, either from earlier or just playing it from your hand. Resolve the Hachima, blow everything up, then resolve, if this is say you're at 2/0 or 2/1, you resolve the LaPlus to clock yourself to plus potentially 2, so your hand goes right back up, and then you play your Ollie from the cards that you took off of the LaPlus, and it puts you right back down to 2/0, so you don't waste your Ollie heal and you keep your hand resources up. So that's the main line, is if you have 6 stock, you're able to do it with 1. If you're absolutely insane and have 7 stock, you could resolve 2 of those. But normally after that turn, you'll have about 3 cards in hand without resolving the LaPlus. And if you have a LaPlus, you might get up to 5. So it's a good way to puke out a bunch of cards, puke out a bunch of damage, play around these big board decks, make Ainz really sad because you just blow up everything just like they want to do to you. And yeah, you got your Marine to close it out. So that's the deck.
Like such a Yugo combo.
Oh yeah, I love it.
It's like the sequencing on the LaPlus thing is like with the heal. I didn't even think about that. Like if you're at low clock, oh yeah, sure. This is free, so you just clock yourself, provided you have the stock, of course. Just punch yourself, try to get some free cards.
And that's the main thing I notice into Alice is typically I get shot to low 2 after they do it most of the time, and I'm just like, well, your board matters. My board is a Brainstormer and nothing else, or a Brainstormer and a LaPlus, or a Brainstormer and nothing. So I'll go ahead and clock myself a few times just because I'm going to heal it right off, and it refills your hand, which is huge because again, you don't play on a lot of hand after that turn.
Yeah, I love that you figured out a way to make the dark hole thing work. It's just so clever how the timing lines up on it. You know that you can, the big drawback of the Hachima being that you blow up the field, but you only get 1 attack that turn. But the timing on the Ollie coming out during attack phase instead of climax phase, which is very unique timing on the Ollie, letting you get around that. It's just like super super sick. I'm really proud of you for coming up with this one, Tanner. This looks like a super fucking awesome deck.
Yeah,
and not just like unique, but like good too. Like it actually looks like functionally like really good.
Yeah, after playing around with it, the only thing that I've ran into that feels really, really rough is you have to be very careful about where your ollies are and tracking where they are, because if you send back ollies over, like if your opponent hits you for more than you expected and you go over refresh and you take some ollies to clock, it just cripples your turn. So if you can only resolve like one ollie with your Hachima, just losing that one attack is massive in the flow of the game, from what I've been experiencing. But as long as you're very delicate about when you discard your ollies, if you have them in your hand, using like ditch effects the turn before, make sure that you're tracking where they are. It's very good. The one thing I've considered with this is also switching and putting in the Matsuri stock swap. It's not in this list right now. I really like how the Watame is played. I want to test a little bit more with the Matsuri, just to see if it does give you that extra little bit of push to an opponent who does compress a lot. But the main thing is reason why I'm not playing that is because once you blow up their entire board, if it's, like an Alice, they have to spend those resources right away to try to rip back everything, so they won't have a ton of stock going into it. Or if they don't do that, then their next few plays are just going to be vanilla swinging with small cards and just crashing.
Yeah, I mean, you're blowing up their whole board. They got to spend something to get that back out there, or at least put up some kind of fight. Otherwise, like, you're just going to keep slamming them because you put out 3 bodies and blew up everything they had.
Yeah, I guess one precautionary note I would have too is that Ollie is a very unique card. I'd make sure that you got to be delicate with it, like Tanner said. The wording of it has to be in your waiting room at the beginning of the attack step. So if you discard it, you can't like discard it to its own effect and then play it, or like pay it out, let's say off of the Laplace Ricky or something. It has to actually be in your waiting room to see itself there for the effect to activate at the beginning of the attack phase.
Yeah, and a good way to do that is if you know you're going to resolve it, for people who are thinking about playing this like at a tournament, right? I would always take the 2 ollies that are already in my waiting room before I move to attack, like as I move to attack phase, before I pay anything, before I nuke my own board, I will pull these up to show that they are already in my waiting room, then resolve Hachima, then resolve the spawns, or the Laplace, then the spawns. That way you ensure that they see it and they can't do a get you.
Yeah, and just a good way to double check. Yeah, good way to double check yourself too, and make sure that you're all set to go.
And if you only have 1 in there, you can always use some of these free mills, like the Choco, like the Subaru, to help try to dig a little extra to get there for that one big explosive turn.
All right, well, closing it out here. Usual slide at the end, but I'll just talk about upcoming stuff. Upcoming set reviews. Azure Lane is definitely like the big one that we have to do. I have to like go through and curate that one and more than we normally are curating them now. But there's a couple other ones that we need to do. We need to do Ari Ferretta. Our one local Brandon has that. Got to talk to that out. Do Spy Family. The list is out for that. Lyco Reco. There's a couple other ones, Gamer, we need to get through. Guilty Gear, that's quite a while off, but that's like the next English exclusive. Other content, looking to do something with Lost Format. I've been talking with the Clock Tower guys, trying to get something together to possibly run some online events in the automated simulator, just for fun, just for bragging right that. Don't want to have an anime Evo situation happen again, just because a lot of that stuff's really old and it's hard for people to get their hands on it. But I know our locals has been enjoying that a lot, and with the simulator, it's really easy to be like, okay, only these cards exist in the simulator, so that's what's legal, but no questions there. And then people don't gotta go out and find these really old cards that can be really hard to acquire. So want to spread that around, see if people are interested in maybe playing a little bit of that format, make some content, do some commentary, things like that, leveraging the simulator. So hopefully that can be cool. Upcoming stuff. Tanner, Andy, you guys got anything to add in the close here?
No, nothing on mine.
I love Hololive.
Yep, we all love Hololive.
Oh wait, who's that person by Pecora?
And Noel, yeah, I'm not exactly sure who that is. I don't know if that's a VTuber or a Hololiver. Might be independent. Might be VShojo, actually.
Yeah, it's a nice OC that they decided to put on there for Bushiroad.
Yeah, it is an OC. All right, with that, Pittsburgh White Sports signing off. We'll see you guys in the next one.